Hi guys. Also, we're live, huh?
Yeah,
Very
we are
nice.
live now.
Hi from Italy. Buongiorno. I should say good
Hello,
morning, good
everyone.
afternoon, and good evening, right?
Yeah, we have people joining in from everywhere. So actually, I have been receiving messages from people specifically from New Zealand. So where it is 5 a.m. in the morning now, people set in alarms to
Wow,
wake up early so as to make up to the sessions.
that's nice. So nice.
So we have people joining in 8 a.m. Pacific time till 5 a.m. in the morning in New Zealand.
Whoa, really
Yeah.
nice. We have like 5 p.m. in our place in Poland. So,
Okay.
hi guys.
So
Hi Juvi. Hi
hello,
Abel. Hi
everyone.
Jose. Go on, Kush.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So, we hope you had a great week so far and hope you are excited for today's session. So, after creating a portfolio in Webflow, now is the time when we learn best of the both worlds. That is, take up designs from Figma and get them production ready in Webflow and let the whole world be in awe of your designs. So for today's session, we have Marcin with us, and Marcin is a senior product designer at NetGuru, a no-code designer and a Webflow certified expert with more than 7 years of experience. He has been helping businesses create digital experiences that are both visually appealing, functional, and effective at achieving their goals. So over to you, Marcin, and here we go.
Thanks for great info. It's like after you were reading all of that, I was like wondering, it's pretty
No,
difficult
I
to
didn't
match
actually
all of
have a
those criteria in the same time. But I know that we have to say something about me. So, hi guys.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I
by the
can
way, to
say
be
hi.
honest, I don't have a script. I just make it up on the go. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, professional. So, hi guys. Let me say a few more highs, then I will move forward with the meat of today's evening. Yeah. Hi guys. I see somebody from my country, from Poland. Hi, very nice, guys. Thank you for being here. I'm really glad that I have a chance to run the session for you guys. Let's give people additional 2-3 minutes, and then we will start. I will start from small agenda, how I'm planning to run the session today. We'll start from short presentation with some information about me, about the project that I picked up as a case study. This is a project that we created in NetGuru. This is a concept project where we wanted to show our skills related to web design, and eventually at some point we decided that it makes sense to develop this website in Webflow, of course. So after a short presentation, I will just show you what we did, how we did it. We will jump into the Webflow so I can show you generally how the build looks like, explain some of the decisions, and then if the time allows, I hope we can maybe expand the project, because there are some pages that still has to be developed. So maybe we can do it together on the live stream. And then in the end, of course, some questions. I hope I might answer those as well. So how have you been feeling? Guys, by the way, what is going on? Like, do you work mostly with the design, with the Webflow, or are there any front-end developers as well in here? Let me just create quickly a poll. Whoa, it goes quickly. Look at that. Designers mostly. I'm a designer, by the way, as well. Designer by heart. 90%. Look at that. So we're sharing the similar mindset, huh? Somebody says, Magdalena, designer, aspiring Webflow dev. Nice to hear that. Figma, designer wannabe, Patricia. Nice. Got 146 votes. Ooh, huge family. Let's keep it up for a minute more. Hello, everyone. Hello. All right. So generally, the majority of us, let's say, are designers. We have a few strict Webflow developers and 10 front-end developers. So hello, everyone, again. I'll just close the poll. So sorry for those who don't have a chance to answer. You can still keep on answering in the chat. Let's jump into presentation because we are 7 minutes after time. And we have like a lot of stuff to talk about to bring you as much value as possible. 186 votes. Thanks for that, guys. I'm closing the poll. And let's move on. Let's move on. Let me just share my screen. First magic question that appears on every single call, I bet, is like, do you see my screen? Okay, I see some emojis, so I bet I did. Yeah, great. Thank you. Nice. All right. So today's session main topic is from Figma to Webflow. I'm going to be the facilitator, and we're going to talk about the Medica case study. So the website created for imaginary company from medical industry that has been created by us, by NetGuru. Let me just start with saying a few words about me. Utkar started with that, but let me do that again. I'm a senior product designer working for NetGuru for 1.5 years already. I'm also a Webflow developer, Webflow certified expert. My background is generally branding and web design. I'm 100% self-taught, no studies behind it. I'm working daily with a Webflow development project. I'm also supporting NetGuru local team with the operations, building and growing our team, supporting projects technically, and so on and so on. I also dig a bit into the integrations, local integrations and automations. And I'm also a mentor on ADPList with over 1,000 minutes of mentorings. So, but that's enough about me. Let's jump into the meat. So, like I said, today's session is going to spin around the Medica case study. This is a project that, like I said, we created in Guru. Initially, we started with some branding work. So we have created the medical logo, chosen the whole palette and typography. So small package of brand identity services, let's say, aimed at medical industry, startups, scale-ups. So whoever's working in those industries, we want to show off our skills and have another product in our case studies and our portfolio. At some point, we decided to develop this to build the website as well, because right next to the branding, the services and branding scope, we also created the platform for people who are searching for a doctor. They might also book and schedule a meeting with the appointment with the doctors, and eventually, of course, if the company has a software of some sort or application. And then nowadays, like 21st century, every single company needs a website. So we decided to create a web design for that and develop that in Webflow. If you're interested, you can jump to the Behance on our NetGurus account. You can find it over there. If you want to see and dig a little bit more, get a little bit more into the design. Yeah, that's it. Huge credits to Agnieszka Stolarczyk-Urban, the designer who generally built the design part of this project, and I was responsible for developing that in Webflow. The scope of the implementation was based on base development. I call it base development. So right next to this, preparing the project and setting up all the settings, figuring out those small things. Then we started with creating the style get page, of course. Right after that, moved forward with developing starting pages, included also some dynamic content. We have also created one, as far as I remember, one template page for the blog, and we are also planning to expand this project in the future. There are some small micro interactions on the buttons, of course, and there are some more fancy interactions on the mouse move that I will show you as well in a few minutes. There's a CMS structure. If you have any questions about that, let me know in the chat later on. Maybe I can dig deeper into some specific parts of this project. And we use this one for initial first tests of the membership right after we heard and we got an access to the beta of membership. How we built that. And generally, you can treat those slides as best practices that we recommend whenever you're building the websites in Webflow. So I will just walk through and tell you how we did that. Later, of course, I will show you that in Webflow, but you can generally kind of save it if you feel that might be useful for you and treat it as best practices. So at the beginning, we have chosen the framework. For this project, we chose client first version 1 at that point of time. There wasn't a version 2 ready, as far as I remember. So we used it, generally copied the clonable, checked whatever might work for us as an organization, made some small adjustments, small tweaks, figured out which classes might be useful for us, which won't, and treated that as a base. Out of this clonable, we also decided to create a few useful components for the structure, components for the page structure and the section structure that I'm also going to show you in a few minutes. And we use that for some projects to speed up the implementation as well. That was the first step, and I think most of us are using the similar process. Just let me know, guys, in the chat if you're using client first. Kudos to FinSuite, the guys from the FinSuite for creating that. I think a lot of people are using. Yeah, Zarakan, exactly. Client first is I'll just answer a few questions. This is a framework, and generally the whole package of prepared pre-composed classes, the styles, the whole set. Guys from FinSuite prepared also the documentation that might help you guys understand Webflow as well and understand how websites are built. Let's move forward just a little bit. The second step after choosing the framework is creation or generally adjusting the style guide to match the design that we see in Figma. This is what we also did. We started from analyzing all the styles in Figma. The good thing is because we are generally working close between the designers and developers whenever we work on a project, is that there was constant communication. So we have also prepared on the design stage, we have prepared the quick style guide page consisting all of the main styles for the desktop, for tablet and mobile. So it was generally pretty easy for me as a developer to jump in, see everything in one place in Figma, and then move forward to the development phase. Right after opening generally this target is the first page when you open, instead of jumping into the implementation of the first pages. So most of the times is the home page. We start from style guide page, and then we applied all the styles from Figma, from the design into Webflow. So we have the main default HTML tags prepared, like all the headings, paragraphs. We have the margins, paddings, and whatever we need at the beginning of the implementation. So we can move forward and drag and drop elements, use either the main HTML tags or generally add the classes that are already prepared during the style guide adjustment phase. Number 3, the third step is creation and then the usage of those smart components, like I already mentioned. What we did to speed up, again, sorry for repeating myself, to speed up implementation is preparing some components up front and keeping them in the template. So we have the 2 components responsible for the structure. So every time when we add a new page to our project, we are dropping PS page structure component, which consists the whole structure of every single page. So we keep the consistency, and have the elements in the correct order in our pages. And every time when we add a new section to each of the pages, we are using section structure component that consists of the whole structure that you might generally see in the client first. Other than that, after developing the first page, which most of the time is the homepage, we are also wrapping the crucial, the most often used elements such as footer, nav bars, CTA sections, or whatever might show on the different pages. We are also wrapping those in the components, so it is easier to use them throughout the whole build, and then have the chance that if something will change, like I don't know, we would need maybe additional column in the footer, or we might add some elements to the navigation. Whenever we change the master component, so the main component, the changes will be applied to all of its instances on the rest of the pages. So that was step number 3. Later, step number 4, we start with building the layout. You can see on the right side the screen of the navigator. This is how the structure of the site looks like. What you need to do whenever you start building those sites and move forward from style guide to actually developing the project is keep in mind the proper structure. The most important tags like main tag or sections, so both Google will know how to approach your site later on. Remember, this is one thing that I think everybody is repeating whenever they talk about building websites in Webflow, and not only mindset is key in here. So there are a lot of differences between web design and actually developing the sites, either in Webflow and other tools. The main rule is like put boxes inside of the other boxes, and remember about the relation between things. So there's a relation between the elements when you put one element inside of another, inside of div blocks, how we call them in the web development world. One is a parent, and the second one that is sitting inside of this one is the child. So this relation, when you start realizing and learning more about that, about HTML and CSS, will make your life much easier. Of course, at this point, after dragging and dropping the main elements into the homepage, we are also taking care of the responsiveness. So translating the whole RWD, so responsive web design, into our builds as well. Next step number 5, at this point, when we have most of the static content prepared, we prepare the structure for CMS, so content management system. In this project, we decided that we would like to showcase an option for the company that might be interested in working on the content marketing. So in this example, you can see the blog structure. We have created that collection, so database for all the articles that might show on the final website. So at this point, we are preparing the structure for the CMS, creating all the necessary fields in the content management system, drag and dropping the collections onto the static pages, like on a home page or about us page, and then also create the templates if you need those for the CMS. It's like whenever you're using things like testimonials, for example, or want to add team members to your website, it is good to wrap those elements in the CMS and show them dynamically. So the company that you build the website for, so your client might have actually the option to add easily that content. And some other types of usage of the content management systems are, for example, blogs. So the good practice is to prepare that structure, so the marketing teams might generally upload the content straight into the CMS and allow Webflow to create automatically new pages every time when they add a new article. Another next step, I had to put that funny picture, is interactions. This is something that we generally add to the website whenever we feel that the content is there, that all the static sections are prepared. Then we move forward into adding basic micro interactions. I mean, states of the buttons, like hover states, or states of the forms, focus states or focus keyboard states, and so on and so on. The good practice would be in here, this is something that I might advise you guys as well, not jumping straight into interaction panel and using JavaScript for that, to not overload the site with extra JavaScript code, but rather use CSS with its states. I will show you how it's done, or let me know in the chat if you have some direct answers about that, so I can bring that closer to you. And after having all the micro interactions on our build, we are moving towards creating more advanced custom interactions and animations, something like if we would like something to move on the side as users scroll, or on hover, on mouse move, always this is the time for doing that. Remember, the good practice for that is unifying the global classes and combo classes and add interactions to the classes so you can reuse those in other elements. Number 7, this is not maybe the best practice, but this is something that we did in this project. At some point, there was a time that Webflow released memberships. It was in a beta test at that time, but we realized, like, why not to use this particular project to do that? So we have started, we have created some, we have used utility pages and implemented our design into login, sign up, reset, update password pages. I can also share that with you. And we were planning to add a dashboard as well, but we eventually didn't do it yet. The future of this project, because generally I will share with you I can share with you the link to the live website if you want to have a glance later on. But we are still planning to expand this project and play around with that, maybe adding some logic to it and test logic. There's no SEO set for that because we are not using that website as a regular business. We just did it for the portfolio purposes, let's say. But we're still thinking about packing all the things related to SEO in there, so it will generally start looking and feeling both as an actual website. So the clients might generally check our capabilities. We are thinking about adding the dashboard in here, maybe connect it with some external data sources, maybe using Wiz or any other tool to connect it and add some extra logic on top of that. So whenever the users will create the accounts and would like to test how the whole platform might work with the functionality of searching and finding the doctors and booking appointments with them, we might at some point eventually create it and put that functionality into this project. Quick recap before we jump into the Webflow. Best practices. Remember that especially at the beginning, but even when you're a professional and you're building a lot of sites for the clients, following a solid framework will generally help you. It will most of the time take a lot of frustration out, and it will definitely speed up the processes. You can either create your own framework or use any framework that is available on the market. The most common, I bet, or most popular are Client First by FinSuite, the Wizardry by Timothy Ricks. Feel free to check those out, and if you cannot find the links online, which shouldn't be a problem, because guys have pretty decent YouTube accounts and Wizardry. There's a Wizardry and Client First. I'll put it in the chat right now, so it will be easier for you to find it. Wizardry, Riggs, and Client First by FinSuite. Feel free to use those, especially when you start learning Webflow. It will help you learn that just right next to it, going through the amazing Webflow University, which is one of the best experiences of the courses I have ever approached. Generally, after watching or doing any courses from Webflow University, just jump right into those frameworks. It will help you for sure. So moving forward, follow the framework is number 1. Second step would be start from the target page. My recommendation is never start implementing the homepage right away. This is the mistake I did at the beginning, where I started just putting the design onto the Webflow right away. The problem is it is really difficult to think forwards and forecast when you might use some global classes, and you generally do sections one by one and everything is custom. So eventually at some point you have hundreds or even thousands of classes, and it's really hard to keep the consistency and shorten up the code and work on the performance. So my recommendation is like start from applying the design onto the style guide page and then move forward with all the Lego blocks that you have pre-composed and prepared for your build. Number 3 is using smart components. I'm using and we are using in NetGuru smart components that speed up our processes so we don't have, every time when we create a sectional page, we don't have to drop divs one by one and remember what is the structure, which one's supposed to sit where. We're using smart components that consists already that structure, so we can drag one element, do thing that no designers don't like to do, meaning unlink the component, and then we can move forward with putting the content inside of this prepared structure. Number 4, remember about building a responsive, well-organized layout. Remember about all the breakpoints going down, and if you need to add some extra breakpoints, if you need to have extra control about how your website generally looks on the bigger screens, you can also add the extra breakpoints above, meaning like 1600 or 9020 or whatever you need in your websites. Number 5 is preparing CMS and create the template pages. Number 6 is adding interactions to improve user experience, of course, with the proper balance to not overload both the site and the risk that the performance will go down. And of course, to not add interactions that are just a distractors, just to show off. If that's your personal website, go for it if you feel so. But if you're building the website for the client, remember about that interactions have to be well thought. And number 7, the last best practice, remember about SEO. If you have a content and if you don't provide SEO services, ask your clients about it. Show them also how to implement those, or do that first step and gather the content related to SEO, like title tags, meta descriptions, or alt tags for the images. Put that onto the Webflow and then show your clients how to generally edit the site. So you won't just hand over the project and then disappear, but teach them how they can use it so there won't be any surprises in the future. Yeah, I think this is the whole presentation, but that's not the end of the session. We still have 30 minutes, so I'll try to be as good as possible and show you more. Guys, just please confirm if you still see me, because I had some problems with the network. I would appreciate if you put in the chat. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so last thank you page when it comes to presentation with some information about me. You can find me on LinkedIn /Major Brandman. My personal website, pretty old, but still hanging there. So if you want to look around, feel free to jump there. If you're interested in, some one-on-one sessions, if you would like to dig into some specific topic related to product design, to web design, to branding, or Webflow in particular, feel free to book a session on ADPList. You can also find here in our website, netguru.com, and my Webflow profile, where I have started putting some extra content for you guys. I have only 4 clonables for now, but just warming up. So hopefully to bring you more resources soon. That's it. When it comes to the presentation, let me just do a short break and tell me if you're bored already or not. And I will just prepare the build. All good? Am I not talking too quick? Yes, of course, I will show you the live site, because the presentation is something you can find online. I know. Let's jump into the Webflow build. So you might actually believe me that we did it in here. So this is the project. Uncompleted, like I said, this is the current stage of it. I just created the duplicate so we can generally play around during this session. Am I mute? Can you hear me? Ah, you can hear me. Okay, great. Yeah, I will also show you Figma in a minute. All right. So what I'm gonna do, let me just walk you through really quickly, like 5 minutes throughout the build, and then I can show you the Figma file as well. This is how we see generally the website. Let me just zoom in. Maybe that will help you as well. You might not see the canvas in the proper way, but at least you can see the structure of the pages. This is how we have built the Medica project based on the design in Figma. Generally, whenever you dig into the client first, you will generally see the same structure or similar structure. Of course, we might use a different class naming conventions, but those are small things. And those should work for you generally and your clients. So every single page that we build in Webflow consists of the following structure: page wrapper. Inside of the page wrapper, we drop the component that consists some custom CSS. And it is also wrapped, there's an embed element with a CSS that is wrapped inside of the component. So every time when we build a new page, we drop the same structure and include the same component. So all the custom CSS stays with us throughout every single page. We have a navigation in here wrapped in a component as well. So after we drop that in any single page, it looks the same. Later, we have the main wrapper. That might feel as an overkill for some people, which I heard a few times, but really important job for this div is like having the ID of main and having the main tag. This will allow you to add extra link that if you focus on accessibility, which you should, in my opinion, you will add at some point the link above everything else. So every time when the user comes to your website, they would like to skip the navigation whenever they use keyboard for the navigation, for moving around the website. The first click, the first double tap when they hit, will generally trigger showing of the link that will allow them to skip the navigation, jump into straight to the first section. Later in the main wrapper, we have first section, which is hero in this particular case. Heading H1, remember guys, one H1 per page, no more. We have some subhead, we have button with some micro interactions. If I click the preview, you can see that it has some extra magnet interaction and it's changing the background color, so the user will know that it's clickable. We have also here some interactions. Other than that, you can see also this card in here with the 4 different benefits of the company that we represent using this website. There's a good question by Ivan the Murad. Sorry if I pronounced it wrong. So if you don't know how to do it in Webflow, you design it in Figma. Generally, you know what? This is something that I also recommend. Start from Figma every time, and then develop your website in Webflow. There are different cases. Some people jump straight into Webflow and design it over here. Some people, and this is also my recommendation, do the design in Figma and then do the development phase in Webflow. And I can tell you one thing why. Remember that if you would like to design the website directly in Webflow, you are sitting on 2 chairs in the same time. So first of all, you have to think as a designer. So you have to focus on design decisions. Think about balance, think about hierarchy, think about the layout in general, think about the colors and rest. But on the other hand, you have to remember about very crucial things for development, which are the HTML, the semantics, the classes. So it's like there are a lot of distractors, and there are a lot of things that you have to think about in the same time, which is not perfect, especially at the beginning of your journey. So I really recommend just starting from Figma and then jumping into the Webflow. maybe I can even, you know what, I will share the whole screen and have Figma side by side with Webflow. Maybe that's going to be easier for you to see generally how the design looks next to the Webflow. I have pretty wide screens. I hope, guys, that won't be a problem for you. Let me just prepare on all the windows. We'll focus on the home page. I'll just hide UI so it's going to be easier for you to see it. Okay, let me know if you see Figma. Figma is on the right side in here. Webflow is on the left side. Okay, I can see some emojis. Nice. So generally, this is our project. Let me just zoom out for a moment to see the whole thing. This is a home page. We have a page for the blog, so the list of all articles that might show up in here. We have a page created, the page for the article itself. So the design for the template for the articles. We have some utility pages for testing the memberships. We have the dashboard created. We have about us page that still has to be implemented, as far as I remember, because I didn't do it yet. There's a legal page template. There is a find a doctor, another find a doctor with some filtering available, and services page, and there are some utility extra pages as well in here. And this is desktop mode, and we have also on a separate page the mobile versions of that. But let me just focus on the home page because we still have something around 20 minutes. I still would like to answer some questions from you guys at the end. So getting back, good question from Angeli Anton. How do you transfer from Figma to Webflow? This is a great question, generally, especially today when I think today Webflow announced the plugin, which is called From Figma to Webflow. Yeah, exactly. Somebody said new plugin. I didn't test it honestly yet because I was working on something else before this session, so I didn't test it. I know that it exists, and I even have it in here, but I just didn't have a chance to test it. Like, if you ask me, I'm not like a huge fan of using those plugins. I prefer to have control about the whole structure. But like I said, I didn't test it yet, so I don't know the functionality and how well prepared is that. So I cannot say anything about it. But yeah, there is a plugin that will probably speed up the implementation and allow you to copy and paste between Figma and Webflow. You might create a session for that. If you would be interested, shoot me a DM on LinkedIn or somewhere. So maybe at some point soon I can create a session for you and we can gather or even test it together if you like. Let me know. I'm open to that 100%, either YouTube or Twitch. But coming back to the point, for now, how do I approach Webflow implementation is like I have a Figma on the side. For now, I have it on one screen, but I'm dropping Figma on the another screen, looking at it, checking inspect mode. And because I'm a designer, I know Figma pretty well. So I can walk around through that, check all the styles and here and there, and then just recreate that step by step in the Webflow. At the beginning, it might take some time, but the more you create, the more you develop, the better you will be in that, especially if you choose a proper framework like one of the ones that I listed previously. So Wizard Your Client First, huge recommendation from my side. So yeah, just try it out, start developing elements one by one. The good option, the good practice for you might be also finding the website that you generally admire and like. I don't want to say Apple because everybody's jumping to Apple website, but just find any website you like online and try to recreate that in Webflow right away. There is a nice plugin I can give an additional hint that you might use for these purposes. If you find the website that you would like to try to develop in Webflow, you can also use the plugin which is called I thought I have it in here, but eventually I don't. There's a plugin, maybe somebody can chat can say, where you just paste an URL, HTML to Figma. Great, thanks, Mir. You can use this plugin, just generally drop a URL and it will drag the whole website, the whole HTML structure in CS, and it will just drop it into Figma. It doesn't look great when it comes to it looks great when it comes to styles because it's like one-on-one. But if you check the structure of the sites, don't count that you will see the names of the layers because there are most of the times divs or sections, but you didn't supposed to have like big changes. Yeah, it's just one big frame, but all the elements are split, so this is a good thing about it. So you can still, and as far as I remember, the outer layout works pretty well. So whenever somebody's using Flexbox on their website, Flexbox and generally outer layout uses the same properties as the properties. So if somebody's using Flexbox for particular sections or elements, Figma should recognize that and show you that this is a Flexbox, so you can use this design and generally start playing around in Webflow. And this is the best thing you can do for yourself when you want to learn how to develop sites in Webflow. So moving forward, let me just show you how this website is built. We have in here the services component. There are a few options for that. You can generally wrap it up in the CMS, or you can do it manually. At this point, that was the beginning of this project, so I've decided to use a static content in here. I wrapped this one in the list, but it's completely up to you if you want to build it up from the div blocks or if you want to build it with the list. In my opinion, that was a good choice, but I leave it up to you because the list generally shows the element that are sitting within some kind of group. So if somebody's scrolling the site, they see generally different items of the same type. Those are medical services, so you can see all the services that generally this company is providing us. There are so many questions, guys. Oh my God, give me additional like 2-3 minutes and then we can jump one by one into the questions. Remember, guys, that you can also put the questions in the QA. Oh my God, I see there are a lot of questions in the QA section. Just give me additional 2 minutes. We can then jump into the questions, or let me know if I'm boring you, so we can jump into the questions earlier or something. Okay, so after the second section, we have the contact section. Here I have used, as far as I remember, the Flexbox or the grid. Oh, there's a grid, 2x2 with some gaps inside, with the different items that are leveraging the same class. Those are contact items, and every single one has the same structure. Good thing or good maybe advice, best practice, in my opinion, is not. And I'm really wondering, how would you do that? Guys, maybe you can tell me in the chat, how do you drop in icons in your Webflow builds? Because this is my approach to that. What I'm doing is I am taking the icon that I'm interested in Figma, copy it as SVG, and then paste it as an embed element inside of Webflow. Why am I doing that? Because that gives me a lot of control when it comes to manipulating CSS. Especially in the places where you would like to add some interactions. So if you'd like to change something on a hover, then you can generally use this method, and with the small changes to the code, especially to the color, let me just find it. If you have the fill in here and it uses a color value in here, you can change it to current color, and then you can manipulate that color within the typography property on the right side. upload icon as an image. I was doing that as well for quite some time, and I'm still doing that sometimes whenever I don't have to manipulate that. But yeah, generally this is a good thing because it gives you a lot of power. I wanted to show you in here. Let me just pick up the simple icon. Oh, this one is pretty simple, so it's not going to have so long code. What you're doing here is probably change the field to current color. Remember about camel case, about this pound sign. You save it. It generally changes the color to the color that is dictated by one of the parents in here. So we have here a gray, and if you change it for a different color, oh my god, I can find it. You see, whatever you change in typography, the icons are changing. So you can play around and add some extra interactions. How you open the code editor in Webflow depends. There are a few places where you generally add the code. This one is just an embed element. So this is an element that you generally drag and drop. You can use in the Webflow interface or shortcut. I'm using Command K or Control K on Windows, and then just write embed. After you hit enter, it will drop this element and open the code editor. You have it in here. But there are other places to add some code as well. Okay, guys, we are at 47 minutes, so maybe we can jump into the questions. Will that be easier for you? Just do like this. Okay, I'm moving to the Q&A tab. Oh my God, so many questions. Guys, if you don't mind, I'll start from the top. I think this is like the most fair. If there's going to be more questions, if I won't have a chance to answer all of those, I'll try to stay here a little bit longer to just put it in a chat, or if not, I will still be available on LinkedIn later on. Just shoot me a question. I'll do my best to answer those. Can we get a copy of this case study using for the presentation? Generally, I don't have a power, and there's no chance I can share that with you. Unfortunately, the only way you can see the design is like jump to our Behance account, NetGurus, and then you can see the whole design in there. I can share with you some other things, or we can, like I said, see each other on the different session. Then I will use something from my private collection as well. And then we can walk through some builds, or we can maybe build your sites in the meantime whenever we find time. That was the question. Sorry, from Abdullah Olasupo. And sorry if I pronounce your name not correctly. Second question is from Chandrana Martin. When building style guides, how do you make them into components? It seems every time I try, it doesn't work in Figma. When building style guides, generally, I can show you our style guide that we used in this build. This style guide is in here, and it generally looks like, yeah, client first version 1. This is a part of the clonable, and we are not changing the whole style guide as a component. The only thing that we use components, like the functionality of components, are the footers, navigation, the structures. So generally, coming back to the beginning of the process is like you just in the new build, when you create a new website, and if you use, for example, client first framework, what you got out of the box is like one empty homepage with some placeholders that you can generally delete, and the style guide page. And this one consists a lot of pre-composed classes that what you should do when you start your build is like go through every single element, or maybe not every single, but the elements that are different in your design, like in here on the right side, and go one by one and change those. So it's like change all the headings, go to main HTML, main default HTML tag, which is called all H1 headings. And you change the properties. So you check in the Figma, what is the size in pixels? You just put it in here. For example, I don't know, 80/16 RAM. You hit enter, and it changes generally. Then you go breakdown by breakdown. You go down and change all of that. And you do that with every single element in here. Like the most important are all crucial HTML tags, so all headings from the whole hierarchy of headings, then paragraphs, links, quotes. What else do you have in here? Links, quotes, what comes up into my mind right now. And all of the classes that you're using. Generally, you don't have to change the sizes large, medium, and regular, because guys from Figma, they have prepared the most common ones. But this is how you start your designs. Yeah, those small text weights, those are just the global classes that have one property change. So if you're dragging and dropping in the element, let me show you one thing. When you go to home and you start building after you have this target prepared, you just put, for example, here a paragraph, and then it takes all the properties from main HTML tag. But if you'd like to make this bold, then you just use text, weight, and you have all the classes that are waiting for you to be used. You just hit bold, voila, done. Let me move forward to the other questions because we still have 8 minutes. Question number 3 from Emerald de la Cruz. Apart from the icon example, what are other examples of when to use custom CSS code in Webflow? There are a lot of cases. A good example might be, let's stick into the client first framework, because this is something many of us, and especially beginner Webflow developers, are using, or I recommend them to use. When you start using client first framework and the clonable that they prepared for you guys, you have this component here that consists global styles, and there's a lot of custom CSS that guys from Fins would prepare for you guys. So this is the thing. So there are some pretty useful classes that aren't possible to do natively in Webflow. Things like text style 3 lines. So this one is responsible for limiting your text to 3 lines. So if you have, for example, this one is text style 3 lines. If you have, for example, blog. Let's go to this one. It would be applicable to blogs, but our blog is pretty, the titles are pretty short, so I will use it in here. Let me just add something else. So let me give you a different example. Let me just add some more text in here, just for the presentation purposes. And whenever you will add this class in here, it will wrap it within the 3 lines. So whatever is longer than 3 lines, it will just change it and put those 3 dots in the end. So this is pretty useful example. Another example is pretty often when I would like to build some custom interactions, micro interactions for the buttons. It's pretty easy to find. If you don't know how to write the CSS code, for example, yourself, just jump to Stack Overflow or go to CodePen. Just search for the different hover interactions for buttons. See how the code is built. Add a embed element in here, and then style your buttons however you want. But this is a good case. Me myself, instead of adding interactions on hover on the buttons, if you are familiar with CSS and know how to write CSS, in my opinion, it's worth digging CSS rather than build interactions in here. Why? Because you're not using JavaScript with the CSS, so it's rendering right away, even inside of the Webflow designer mode, and you're not bloating your page with additional JavaScript code that might be blocked within the browser. Let me move forward. What else do we have? Steffi LA or La. What is the best way for developers to know how to implement a Figma file? Should they be taught Figma by the designer? Generally, you don't have to. It all depends on the person that is handing over the designs to you. We were working with a team that everybody know each other, so most of the times we have the documentation. We are communicating with each other, but next to that, besides that, we also write some documentation on the Figma files, so it's easier for the developer to understand it. Other than that, what else do we have? You can, sorry for that. You can generally go to inspect mode, and whatever you click, you have all the properties in here listed on the right side. This is a pretty simple way for devs to check what is happening on the design. especially when it comes to colors or typography. You have everything in here. And the good thing about Figma is like you don't have to write those. You can copy and paste, and you can then generally copy the properties and paste it into your related inputs in here in the style panel, or you can drop it into the embed element or anywhere used as a custom code. Well, we have still 4 minutes. Utkarsh, let me know if I'm going to be over the time. One more question. Georgia Sivani. Can you explain the ID main more in depth to Google Knows what you treat the content? Okay, generally the main tag is responsible for giving an information where the main content of this page is sitting inside. So we have a lot of the sections, the most important content. So all the sections with the information for the users, that is like the crucial information for the users, sit inside of of this wrapper with the HTML tag. You don't put navigation inside because this is not the main content. This is kind of just the functionality of the website. The same about the footer. So this is when it comes to the tag main, where I'm adding the ID main to the same element, because when you jump into the Webflow accessibility, it's a great website, accessibility checklist that might help you as well. And there are good stuff in here. And there's one thing, include skip to main link. And this is something that I mentioned about. If you would like your site to be accessible, generally guys just walk through that. But as far as I remember, it requires ID because there's a snippet on the bottom that adds that functionality that will allow users to generally click tab, then Webflow will show them this link, because after you follow this, it will show you how to style this element. And when you hit enter, it will generally pass through the whole navigation and move users straight to the meat of the website, to the main content. And this is why you include this main ID. I hope that answers your question. If not, let me know later on. I can dig deeper into that, or jump straight into this link. I will just drop it in the chat. Okay, let me just answer one more question. I'm kind of pumped. That was here. Is the image styled with CSS at all, or is that light green background and the small green icons part of the PNG? Which one? Those ones in the hero section? If you talk about this one, this is just an image. This person is an image with these green ones behind, and all of the small things in the back, those are separate images. I'm not using CSS for those. And we have decided, and I have decided during the development, to use those as a separate image to add this fancy interaction on the mouse move. So this element is a separate image. This one is separate image. This one is separate image. I didn't put it as a embed code, and didn't just copy it as a code, as SVG code into the Webflow, because we don't need to have control over the colors in here. My only intention was like to add this interaction on mouse move. So this particular element is just an image. Okay, guys. Utkarsh, I think we are just about time. 6 o'clock. I would love to answer all of the questions, but there are so many.
Yeah, Marcin. So we are not on time. So as Marcin said, so any of you can reach out to him on socials, and he's also there on ADPList. Feel free to find him on ADPList and book a session with him. And I'm sure he would also be covering up the plugin that was launched today later up, either on his live stream on
Yeah, that's for
YouTube,
sure.
Twitch, or somewhere else. So yeah, so you can follow him
Let me
out
guys know.
and keep a track of that. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. A few quick reminders before we call it today. So the Webflow case is live. Make sure to check your emails and start working on the case. And I would say you would definitely want to utilize the coming weekend to get things started, in case if you have not yet started up. The deadline for the submission is 13th of February, and the shortlisted cases get featured in the demo day on Feb 17th. So do hurry up and get ready with your best work. Do and also don't forget to post your learnings on socials using hashtag Webflow with ADPList, and you can also network around with with the fellow learners in the launch. Have a great weekend and see you soon on Monday, where Melissa Mendes will take us through the journey of creating e-commerce websites using Webflow. Thanks again and have a good one, everyone.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great evening and rest of the day.